Storytime boys. My family and I used to go on a camping trip every year, but after what happened last year, I don't think we'll ever go back. There's only 4 of us, me, my mom, dad, and little brother Fitz, that's 8. Usually we all have to go on the family camping trip, but last year Fitz had a tournament he couldn't miss. My parents had already rented the RV and paid for the campsite, so we couldn't cancel. After a lot of back and forth, my parents decided Fitz would stay with my aunt for the week so he wouldn't miss his tournament and we would go camping without him. I remember leaving that day and telling Fitz he was so lucky he didn't have to go. What's really scary is I didn't know how right I was. When we got to the campsite, I remember my mom being pissed because there was no service. Usually that's the whole point of going camping, but something about this time made my mom really uncomfortable, and I felt it too. Something was different, almost like I knew there was a predator somewhere close. I ignored the feeling and thought it was probably because Fitz wasn't there and we couldn't check on him. We were supposed to stay at the campsite for 5 days, but after the first night, my dad decided we would leave the next morning. Looking back, I wish we would have left at that very second. We spent the day packing up and getting ready to leave, and when we sat down to have some dinner, I realized my dad had this really weird smile on his face. It's hard to explain, but his eyes were wide like he was terrified, and then through his forced smile he said, "Don't look, don't move, just act normal." I was really confused, and I wanted to ask questions, but I could tell by the way he said it I needed to just listen. When my mom sat down, she made a joke about us looking like we'd seen a ghost. My dad laughed way too hard, and again through his weird forced smile said something that made my mom lose all the color in her face. In a super happy tone, my dad said, "He's watching us from the woods." My mom stood up, spun around, and started scanning the trees. My dad tried to stop her, but it was too late. A man dressed head to toe in gray stepped out from the trees and said, "Hello there." My dad tried to be calm and friendly, but my mom wasn't having any of it and just asked him what he wanted. He made us sit down and watch while he went through our things, ate our food, and took the RV. It took us days to finally get home, and when we did, I thought the whole nightmare was over, but it was just beginning. The top news story was about a criminally insane inmate who had escaped from the maximum security prison a few miles away from our campsite. I stared in disbelief as a picture of the man in the woods came into view on the TV. Before I passed out, I could hear them saying he was convicted of horrible crimes that always involved little boys.